I'm Gretchen Hole, 32 years old, a project manager in Jacksonville, Florida. At 9:47 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday night, my phone lit up with a call from my parents. Their voices trembled. "Please help. The rent is past due. We're about to lose everything."
My mom's sob shattered me.
My dad, usually so stoic, echoed her plea. They said they needed $5,500 by morning or they'd be evicted from their Gainesville home. Without a second thought, I opened my banking app, typed in the amount, and hit send. The confirmation ping felt like I had saved them. I went to bed thinking I had done the right thing. 3 days later, my phone buzzed during a coffee break. A friend showed me a Facebook post from my older brother, a poolside cocktail photo in Miami captioned, "Family is complete," with just 3. The 3 of them laughing, clinking glasses while I was left out. My stomach dropped. The rent wasn't overdue. I checked. It had already been paid weeks ago. That $500. It wasn't for rent. It was for that. I stared at the screen, heart racing, knowing this was just the beginning. What about you? Have you ever been blindsided by family like this? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Helping my family was just part of my life. Growing up in Gainesville, Florida, I watched my parents struggle after Dad lost his construction job years ago. Now living in Jacksonville, I'd made it as a project manager. And with a recent raise, I felt I could finally make a difference. Sending money home was routine. $2,000 for Mom's physical therapy last spring. $1,500 for a new water heater in July. $500 for groceries when their fridge went empty. I never asked for details. It was my way of keeping us connected. Our family group chat lit up after my promotion news. Mom sent heart emojis, saying she was proud. Dad typed, "You're doing better than I ever did." My older brother stayed silent, as usual. That didn't bother me much. Mason, 35, was always distant, drifting between odd jobs and big promises. I figured he was just busy, but looking back, his silence should have been my first clue. The Tuesday night call from Mom and Dad came out of nowhere. I'd just gotten home from a 12-hour workday, my laptop still open with emails. Their voices cracked through the phone, desperate, talking over each other about the rent being overdue. "We're short. $5,500. Mom said, her words rushed. "The landlord's calling tomorrow," Dad added. "We can't lose the house, Gretchen." It wasn't like them to sound so panicked. I didn't even think to check the account. My fingers were already on my phone wiring the money. The transfer went through at 10:03 p.m. and I exhaled, thinking I'd saved the day. But something felt off. Mom's voice had been too sharp. Dad's too quiet. They'd never pushed me like that before, not for medical bills or repairs. I tried to brush it aside, telling myself it was just stress. I texted the group chat to confirm the money arrived. No reply from Mason, just a quick "thank you" for Mom. I stared at my phone, wondering why it felt like I was missing something. I didn't sleep well that night, my mind replaying their words, their urgency. Why hadn't they mentioned the landlord's name? Why was Dad, who usually handled bills, so vague? I told myself I was overthinking. Families lean on each other. Right over the next 2 days, I kept checking the group chat, expecting an update. Mom sent a photo of her garden. Dad mentioned a new diner in Gainesville, but nothing about the rent didn't chime, and not even a thumbs up. I thought about calling, but work was a whirlwind, meetings, deadlines, a new client pitch. Still, that uneasy feeling grew like a knot on my chest. I started wondering if I'd been too quick to send the money. Had I even asked when the rent was due? I couldn't shake the thought that something wasn't adding up. I didn't know it then, but that call was just the beginning. My trust in my family, the one thing I'd always held on to, was about to be tested. I kept going back to Mason's silence, the way he never engaged unless he needed something. I didn't want to believe it, but a part of me wondered if he had anything to do with this. I pushed the thought away, telling myself I was being paranoid. But deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it forever. 3 days after I sent the money, I was at a cafe with my friend Parker. We were catching up over iced coffees, joking about work when he pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. "You need to see this," he said, his voice low. It was a Facebook post for Mason. A photo of him lounging poolside in Miami, cocktail in hand, grinning with Mom and Dad. The caption hit me like a punch. family is complete with just three. The three of them laughing under neon lights while I was nowhere in the picture. My chest tightened. I just sent $5,500 to save their home. And here they were partying like nothing was wrong. Parker watched my face, his eyes steady. Something's not right, Gretchen. That doesn't look like people worried about rent. I nodded, barely hearing him. My thumb already scrolling through the post's details. Posted yesterday, tagged at a swanky Miami resort. Comments from friends, even our cousin cheering them on. I felt sick, betrayed, but I didn't want to believe it yet. Maybe it's old, I said, grasping for an excuse. Parker shook his head.
Check the date.
That's from Thursday night. Thursday, 2 days after I sent the money. I opened my banking app right there, heart pounding, and logged into the landlord's payment portal. My hands shook as I typed in Mom and Dad's address. The screen loaded and there it was, rent paid in full 2 weeks ago. Not overdue, not even close. The $5,500 I'd sent, it didn't go to the landlord. It went somewhere else. Somewhere with palm trees and cocktails. I stared at the screen, my coffee forgotten, as the pieces started falling into place. Parker leaned forward, his voice gentle but firm. You need to figure out what's going on. This isn't okay. I knew he was right, but part of me wanted to call Mom, hear her explain it away. Maybe there was a mistake, a mix-up, but deep down I knew better. Mason's silence in the group chat. The way Mom and Dad pushed me to send the money so fast it wasn't adding up. Parker didn't push, but his words stuck. You deserve the truth. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, and opened another tab on my phone. The family bank account, the one I'd been sending money to for years, was my next stop. I logged in expecting to see the $5,500 in the account maybe transferred to the landlord late, but the balance was lower than it should have been. No recent payment to the landlord, no trace of my transfer, just a few small withdrawals. Gas, groceries, a coffee shop in Gainesville. My mind raced. Where did the money go? I thought of Mason's photo. His smug grin, the caption that cut me out. Family is complete with just three. Was this his plan to take my money and leave me out? I looked at Parker, who was still watching me, his expression a mix of worry and encouragement. What are you going to do? He asked. I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew I couldn't let this slide. I started digging deeper, checking the account's transaction history, looking for anything that could explain where my money went. Every click felt heavier, like I was unraveling something I wasn't ready to face. But I couldn't stop. I had to know what Mason was doing and why Mom and Dad were part of it. That night, I sat alone in my apartment. My laptop glowed on the kitchen counter, the banking app still open from earlier. The sting of that Facebook photo, Mason's smug grin, Mom and Dad laughing in Miami, burned in my mind. I couldn't shake the fact that the rent supposedly overdue had been paid 2 weeks ago. My $5,500 was gone, and I needed answers. I logged into the family bank account, the one I'd been sending money to for years, my heart racing with every click. The transaction history loaded, and there it was, a loan approval for $20,000 dated a month ago, taken out under Mom and Dad's names. My breath caught. Mildred and Henry didn't have the credit for a loan that size, not with Dad's old medical bills and Mom's part-time job. I scrolled further looking for my recent transfer. No trace of it. Instead, I saw withdrawals linked to a Miami hotel, $2,000 for a suite, $500 for a rooftop restaurant, and smaller charges at bars, all time-stamped last week. They matched the dates of Mason's Facebook post right down to the day. I felt my stomach twist. Mason had done this. He'd used Mom and Dad's information to take out the loan, and my money was probably funding his party. I opened a new tab searching for a lawyer I'd worked with on a contract last year. My lawyer, Brian Walsh, picked up on the second ring. Gretchen, what's wrong? He asked, his voice calm but alert. I explained everything. The fake rent crisis, the Miami photo, the $20,000 loan. This sounds like fraud, Brian said. We need to lock that account now. He walked me through filing a report with the bank, his instructions clear and precise. By midnight, the account was frozen, cutting off any further transactions. I refreshed the banking app, confirming the lock. No one could touch that account. Not Mason, not mom, not dad. It felt like a small victory, but my hands were still shaking. I kept digging, pulling up more transactions. A car rental in Miami, $800. A jewelry store purchase, $300. Every charge screamed Mason's name, tying back to that poolside photo. I wanted to call him, scream at him, but I knew that wouldn't help. He'd talk his way out like always. Instead, I opened my email and started typing. Mason, I wrote, my fingers slamming the keys. I know about the loan. I know about Miami. The bank account is locked and I've reported you for fraud. Explain yourself or this goes further. I hit send, my pulse pounding. I didn't expect a reply. Not yet. Mason was too slippery for that, but I needed him to know I wasn't playing his game anymore. I leaned back, staring at the screen, the email's timestamp glaring. 12:47 a.m. Brian called again before I went to bed. The bank's investigating, he said. They'll need statements from your parents to confirm they didn't authorize the loan. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. What if they don't cooperate? I asked. Mildred and Henry loved Mason, always making excuses for him. Brian's voice stayed steady. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, you did the right thing. I thanked him, but sleep didn't come easy. I kept thinking about mom and dad, how they'd sounded so desperate on that Tuesday call. Were they in on this? Or was Mason pulling their strings? I closed my laptop, but my mind wouldn't shut off. The $20,000 wasn't just money. It was trust, years of me carrying the family, while Mason took what he wanted. I thought about calling mom, asking why she went along with it, but I stopped myself. I needed more proof, more time. The bank would dig deeper and Brian would handle the legal side. For now, I'd sent my warning shot. Mason would have to face me eventually. By noon the next day, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. I was in my Jacksonville office trying to focus on a client email when mom's name flashed on the screen. I answered, and Mildred's voice came through frantic. Gretchen, the bank card's not working. I couldn't buy my medication today. What's going on? Her words were sharp, almost accusing, like I'd done something wrong. I gripped the phone, my mind flashing to the $20,000 loan I'd found last night. Mom, I had to lock the account, I said, keeping my voice steady. There's a problem with it. She gasped. How are we supposed to pay for things? You can't just do this without telling us. I wanted to ask why she hadn't mentioned the loan, but her panic made me pause. Was she really in the dark? Before I could respond, a text from Mason popped up. Hey, can you send $500? Need it for some car repairs. No apology, no mention of my email calling him out for the loan. Just his usual casual tone. I stared at the message, my blood boiling. He was acting like nothing had happened, like the Miami trip, the $20,000, and my warning didn't exist. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my banking app, checking for any new activity since I'd frozen the account. That's when a notification hit my inbox, an alert from the bank about a rejected application for a $10,000 credit card attempted in Henry's name using his social security number. The application was submitted yesterday, hours after Mason's Miami photo. My heart sank. This wasn't just about the loan anymore. Mason was trying to open a credit card, pretending to be dad. Identity theft. I felt a mix of rage and disbelief. How could he go this far? I called Brian, my lawyer, immediately. He picked up his voice, calm as always. Gretchen, what's new? I told him about the credit card attempt, my voice shaking. This is serious, Brian said. We need to send a formal cease and desist letter to Mason demanding he stop using your parents' information. I'll draft it today. I agreed, asking him to include a warning about potential legal action. He needs to know this isn't a game, I said. Brian promised to have the letter sent by evening, addressed to Mason's Gainesville apartment. I hung up, staring at Mom's missed call. I wanted to call her back, ask if she knew about the credit card, but I stopped myself. Mildred's panic felt real, but her silence about the loan made me question everything. Had Mason convinced her to stay quiet, I texted her instead. Mom, I'm handling the bank issue. I'll make sure you get your meds. Please don't use the card for now. She replied with a quick, okay, but nothing more. I wondered if she was hiding something or just caught in Mason's mess. Mason's text still sat unanswered. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Confronting him directly wouldn't work. He dodged like always. The cease and desist letter would speak for me. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of it all pressing down. Mildred's call. Mason's shameless request to the credit card attempt. It was too much. I opened the bank's fraud report again, double-checking the details. The credit card application listed Dad's name, but the contact email was Mason's. It was sloppy, reckless, like he thought I wouldn't notice. But I did, and I wasn't letting this slide. Brian emailed me a draft of the letter by 5 p.m.
It was direct.
Cease all unauthorized use of Henry Holt's personal information, including attempts to open credit accounts. Further actions will result in legal consequences. I approved it, my hand steady now. The letter would reach Mason tomorrow. I didn't know how he'd react, but I was ready for whatever came next. My family wasn't what I thought it was, and I had to face that truth. A week later, everything changed. My phone rang at 8 p.m. on a Saturday. A Gainesville number I didn't recognize. It was a nurse from Shan's hospital. "Your father's been in a car accident," she said. "He's stable, but you should come." My heart dropped. I booked the next flight from Jacksonville to Gainesville, packed a bag, and was at the hospital by 10:30 p.m. Henry was in a room on the 3rd floor, hooked to monitors, his leg in a cast. Mildred sat beside him, her eyes red from crying. "Dad, you're going to be okay?" I said, squeezing his hand. He nodded weakly, his voice. "Just a bad turn on I-75.
I'm fine."
The doctor pulled me aside. Henry had a fractured femur and a concussion requiring surgery and a week's stay. The bill was already climbing $30,000 with more to come. I didn't hesitate. "Send me the invoice," I told the billing office. I logged into my savings account, transferred the funds, and confirmed the payment by midnight. Henry needed care, and I wasn't letting money stand in the way. Mildred hugged me, whispering, "Thank you, Gretchen." But her hands trembled, and I could tell something else was wrong. The next morning, Mason walked into the hospital room. No greeting, no apology for the loan or the credit card attempt. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, and said, "You need to unlock the bank account. Mom can't even buy coffee." His voice was casual, like he was asking for a favor. I stared at him, my jaw tight. "Mason, the account stays locked," I said. "You know why?" He shrugged, smirking. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." I wanted to scream, but Dad was right there, still groggy from pain meds. I stepped into the hallway, motioning Mason to follow. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice low but sharp. "The loan, the credit card, the fake rent story. What's your endgame?" Mason rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting. Just open the account, and we're good."
No remorse. No explanation.
I turned away, my hands clenched, and went back to Dad's room. Mildred was adjusting his pillow, her movements nervous. I sat her down in the waiting area away from Mason. "Mom, I need the truth," I said. "What's going on with him?" Mildred's eyes filled with tears. She looked down, her voice barely audible. "Mason made me call you that night about the rent. He said we needed the money, that it was urgent. I didn't know about the loan until you told me. He said it was for Dad's medical bills, but..." She trailed off, wiping her face. "I should have told you, but he's my son." My heart sank. Henry didn't know any of this. Mildred confirmed he thought the rent call was real. She'd gone along with Mason's lie, too scared to push back. I hugged her, but my mind was racing. Mason had manipulated her, used Dad's name, and now he was here acting like nothing was wrong. I stepped outside to call the hospital's billing office again, ensuring the payment had cleared. It had, and Henry's surgery was scheduled for tomorrow. Mason lingered in the waiting room, scrolling on his phone. I ignored him, focusing on Dad. By evening, Henry was more alert, asking about work, trying to joke. I stayed until visiting hours ended, promising to return in the morning. Mildred walked me to the parking lot, her voice soft.
"I'm sorry, Gretchen."
I didn't know how to stop him. I nodded, but the weight of her words stayed with me. Mason wasn't just hurting me. He was tearing our family apart. When Dad started recovering, I made a decision. Henry was out of the hospital, moving with a cane, but he and Mildred couldn't stay in their old place, not with Mason's shadow looming. I found a one-bedroom apartment in Gainesville close to the hospital for Dad's follow-ups. I signed the lease, paid the first year's rent, and moved them in over a weekend. "Mom, you'll be safe here," I said, handing her the keys. Mildred smiled weakly, but her eyes were tired.
"You're too good to us," she said.
I didn't reply. I was doing this for them, not for thanks. Next, I tackled the family's land, a 5-acre plot in the Gainesville suburbs, inherited from my grandparents. It was the last thing tying us to Mason's mess. I hired a realtor and sold it for $200,000. After fees, I split the money evenly between Mildred and Henry, wiring $90,000 to each, but I held back $20,000, the exact amount of the loan Mason took in their names. That's his debt, I told Mom over coffee. He's not getting a dime until it's paid. She nodded her hands, gripping her mug, but didn't argue. Henry, still foggy from his meds, agreed it was fair. 2 weeks later, I got a legal notice. Mason had hired a lawyer, claiming I'd stolen his share of the land sale. He demanded the full $200,000 be split 3 ways, calling my decision unlawful. I laughed bitterly, forwarding the notice to Brian. "He's got nerve," I said when I called him. Brian was unfazed. "We've got everything we need," he said. "The bank records, the loan documents, the credit card attempt. His case won't stand." He presented our evidence in court, the $20,000 loan application. The Miami hotel charges the rejected credit card in Henry's name. The judge didn't hesitate. Mason's lawsuit was dismissed, and he was ordered to pay my legal fees, another $5,000 he didn't have. I thought that was the end, but then my cousin Seth messaged me on Venmo sending $300 with a note. "Sorry for believing Mason." I called him confused. "What's this about?" I asked. Seth sighed. He told me the Miami trip was a family thing. Asked me to chip in for travel costs. I sent him $300 last month. My jaw dropped. Mason hadn't just used my money or Mom and Dad's names. He'd roped Seth into a scam, too.
"He said it was for a surprise for you," Seth added.
I had no idea. I thanked him for telling me, but the truth stung. Mason had played everyone weaving lies to fund his getaway. I sat with Mom and Dad that night explaining Seth's story. Mildred's face fell. "I should have stopped him sooner," she said, her voice breaking. Henry shook his head, his cane tapping the floor. "I trusted him too, Gretchen. We both did. I didn't push them. They were hurting and I was too. But I made it clear Mason wasn't welcome near their new place. They agreed, though." Mom's eyes lingered on the floor. I wired another $1,000 to cover their first month's utilities, ensuring they'd be okay. The land sale gave them enough to live on, but I wasn't taking chances. Brian called the next day, confirming the court's ruling was final. Mason's lawyer backed off. He said, "You're in the clear." I thanked him, but relief didn't come. Mason's actions had fractured us, and no court ruling could fix that. I looked at my phone. Seth's Venmo payment still open. $300, a small piece of Mason's lies, but enough to show how far he'd gone. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew I'd protect Mom and Dad no matter what. 8 months later, my life felt different. Mason was gone. After the court loss, he packed up and left Gainesville, leaving behind a $30,000 debt from the loan and the failed credit card scheme. I heard through a mutual friend he'd moved to Atlanta chasing some new opportunity. He didn't call, didn't text, didn't reach out to Mom or Dad. His number went silent, and his social media accounts vanished. Part of me hoped he'd face his mistakes, but I wasn't holding my breath. Mason had made his choice, and I'd made mine. Mildred and Henry were finally settling into their new life. The Gainesville apartment I'd rented was perfect, close to a park with a community center nearby. Mildred joined a book club, her first in years. "Mom, you look happy," I said during a visit, watching her flip through a novel. She smiled. "A real one this time." "I'm trying, Gretchen." Henry started playing chess with a group of retirees, his cane propped against the table. He'd tease me about my city life in Jacksonville, but I could see he was proud. Their days were quieter now, filled with small routines that didn't revolve around Mason's chaos. I checked in weekly, wiring money for groceries or doctor visits when needed. They never asked, but I wanted them safe. One evening, Parker texted asking me to dinner at a new spot in Jacksonville. "You deserve a break," he wrote. I laughed, meeting him at a cozy Italian place near the river. We talked about work, his new promotion, my latest project. Normal things, no heavy family drama. He didn't bring up Mason or the past, and I was grateful. Parker's invite wasn't about fixing me. It was just a friend being a friend. I ordered tiramisu and we split it, joking about who got the bigger half. For the first time in months, I felt light, like I could breathe without the weight of betrayal. Looking back, I learned something hard but true. Family isn't a blank check. I'd spent years pouring money, time, and trust into people who didn't always give it back. Mason's lies, the fake rent, the loan, the credit card scam showed me that love doesn't mean letting someone drag you down. Self-respect means drawing a line, even when it hurts. Cutting him off wasn't easy. Every time I saw Mom's tired eyes or Dad's cane, I wondered if I could have done more. But I know now that saving them meant saving myself first. I wasn't their bank or their fixer. I was their daughter, and I deserved better. This story isn't just mine. It's for anyone who's carried a family's weight, who's trusted too much, who's had to choose between loyalty and survival. I don't have all the answers, but I know this. You can love someone and still let them go.
Mason taught me that.
Mom and Dad taught me to keep going to build something new. And I'm still learning every day how to balance love with strength. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonates, share your thoughts below. Your stories keep us connected.